I think if you looked at what question we should address for a couple of minutes, the one most people are asking about is what you just finished the main show with. And that people are starting to realize what they're afraid of is that the agent's showing up at the door. And they feel like that's what it's going to. And the Secretary General of the World Homicide Organization, the World Health Organization, has said on video that, we've done a great job of reducing this horrific carnage of the virus in the general population, which is still going on. But the main damage is now inside homes. And we need to go into the families. You may have seen the clip.
Oh, I saw it.
Yeah. Right. And we need to say, how are you? Friendly and everything. And see if we need to remove any family members with dignity and safety.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I know way too much about abuse to let someone walk into my house and take my kid and put them somewhere that I don't know where it is with people that I don't know and say that my child's going to be safe. If you look at countries in Europe that have a much more free and open society, they have much more abuse of children in those societies because of their permissiveness and what they allow sexually. And I know that kids are easily taken advantage of. And in a society where you're having people show up at your door, granted this hasn't happened yet, but people showing up at your door saying, you're infected, we need to take your kid to protect your kid. I'm sorry, I'm more qualified to protect my own child and to keep them from being abused than you are.
Well, it hasn't happened yet with the COVID-19, but it has happened extensively with CPS. And a lot of those kids have died and gone into real bad situations. And
I know people that were actually impacted by that stuff. I went to school with a girl who was pulled out of a home because, granted, she got pulled out of a bad situation, but she got pulled out of a bad situation and didn't go to one that was much better. She went into a home that she was abused, and the stepdad, or whatever you want to call it, the foster dad, was sexually acting like a predator. And then that's not a good situation for bouncing kids around, and it contributes to the destructive nature of what's happening in society. Our families already have issues. We have so many broken homes, and we have so many kids without two parents, or two caring parents, or even one caring parent, that when you take that kid out and then you dump them in with people that are only doing it because they're getting paid by the state to do so, they don't care about kids.
Yeah, foster parenting can be a profession.
Yeah.
You can make quite a bit of money if you get enough kids.
Yeah.
It's true.
And so I would not be willing to let my child, nor my wife for that matter, be taken out of my home and put somewhere else because I don't have enough bathrooms. I heard this rationale from California.
That's it. Yeah.
You don't have enough bathrooms in your home. Go pound sand. I'll go piss in the woods. This is my property. This is my home. I pay the bills. You don't. You want to come here and tell me what to do? You can get a shotgun in your face. And if you really want to pull that trigger, I'll pull it first.
Yeah, there's a famous case of CPS taking all the kids from a family that lived out in the country in one of the mid-eastern states. And I guess they had an outhouse or something, and they were growing their own food. And it was just, extremely unacceptable to CPS, and they took all the kids. And you have to prove you're innocent to get them back and go through all the...
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. So really it's recommended not to get into conversations with those people, right?
Yeah, if it was me, granted, I think my sign on my door kind of answers the first layer of questioning. Yeah. And as a second, I would never answer the door for those people. As a third, I would probably put a sign down by the roadside stating that if anybody comes on my property that's not invited, they are at risk for being shot. That's...
Yeah, there wouldn't be any rioters right now if there was the original spirit of where the country was founded.
Yeah.
It would never go anywhere.
Yeah, because people would actually be defending themselves.
It would be a really bad project on their part.
Yeah, and one of the arguments that I hear, and this is a different issue, but it's on the Second Amendment, is we hear this argument that, we have such advanced weapons technology nowadays. It's not the same discussion as it was during the founding of our country, where, we're guaranteed the right to bear arms and to own arms, and that can't be infringed. Well, I'm sorry, but if you actually look into it and follow the data and follow the history, our founding fathers and our farmers that lived in this group of colonies actually had more advanced weapons technology than the British did. The British walked around with muskets, and we all had rifles. It's one of the things that gave us a freaking advantage to actually have accuracy to shoot these idiots.
Well, in the so-called shot heard around the world, I think that part of the reason for that was they were refusing to give up their personal cannons. Right? So they had those too.
Yeah. So, it's like, it begs the question for me, like, don't just tell me what you think is going on. Actually look around. Like, if you're going to make an argument to me about why I should be doing something, whether it's the government or it's your particular bent, at least have some data to back it up, because I'm going to get into a legitimate discussion with you, and you're going to have to combat with what's real.
Well, that's why education has been, real education has been taken away for a long time.
And I think that is also something that we as a society can address, but we choose not to, because my education has less to do with what I learned in school and more about what I learned from my parents.
Yeah, I mean your real education.
Yeah.
Like that does come from the parents and the immediate environment.
Yeah.
And when the country was being founded, I think it was either homeschooling or they would select one teacher to teach a group of kids in a certain community, things like that.
Yep.
But
it was called there's the Puritan Primer, or the Pilgrim. Yeah, Puritan Primer. Then it was the means by which you taught your kids was they learned their alphabet on one side of the paddle. They had a biblical instruction piece on the second part of the paddle. That was the beginning of their knowledge. Like, they learned the ABCs to apply to what the Bible said to understand religious, philosophical, and moral principles. Yeah. And then you learned about the rest.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a document called Life Cycle of a Country.
Okay, I have not.
It goes in, I wish I had it right in front of me. Maybe I've got it where I can see it if you can give me a second. But it's really interesting. And it shows the stages that countries usually go through. And the interesting thing is to see what stage we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Life Cycle of a Country, here it is. It's by... it's called the Tyler Life Cycle of a Country.
Okay.
And the steps in the life cycle, they're not linear, they're like in a circle, and they keep repeating. And how he lays it out is bondage, spiritual faith, courage, liberty, abundance, selfishness, complacency, apathy, dependence, and then start over with bondage.
Yep.
I think we're at the dependence phase right now, and they're trying to turn it into the bondage part.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it has to necessarily go through all those steps if people decide to wake up.
I think that we're at an opportune point. I mean, we just had something that happened to us as a whole nation and as a whole world that should make people sit back and question what's going on, because there's been something that occurred that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense to actually quite a majority of the people, even if not all of them are willing to talk about it. And it's given us an opportunity, which is a rare one. As much as this has been a detrimental impact on us as a society to not be able to be at work, it's allowed us as a society to have either one or two people at home with your kids that are part of the nuclear family. Yeah. That we can see what family life was intended to be in the first place. Like,
instead of a daycare center, right?
Yeah, and also it's given people that formerly didn't feel like they had time to do investigation to investigate. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing some people wake up in the middle of all this craziness, is because they were so busy before, and then their job said, hey, don't come back right now. And what do they have to do? I mean, if some of those people, granted, are probably just sitting back watching Netflix and doing whatever the heck they want, but the people that are actually questioning and going like, I don't think it's right that I have to wear a mask all the time. They're going to start digging in and making inquiries.
Yeah, I think that's super encouraging.
Yeah, and so hopefully, we will see some sort of shift in this country to be in opposition to tyranny and oppression.
Yeah,
there's recently I came in contact with someone who gave a speech at one of these liberty rallies that was saying that there's a series of shirts that are coming out now from a company that has a logo with numeral 3 with 13 stars around it.
okay,
And
I haven't seen that yet.
so the insignia of that was drawn from the history of our people, the history of our nation, and it is estimated that about 3% of the original colonists were the ones that rose up and actually inspired the freedom and the revolt against the British that led to the 13 colonies becoming the United States.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
you don't need a majority to start out.
Yeah, you need 3% is essentially what that's saying. Like, let's just get off our butts and get 3% of people motivated and inspired and educated, and the rest hopefully will follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would help everybody actually by the influence of those 3%.
Because those 3% are probably going to be the vocal ones, and those are the ones that you need to actually get out there doing stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to hear some kind of inspiring, logical, common sense wisdom instead of all the brainwashing.
Yeah,
you just need to see where it's going to come from.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, it's really fun talking to you. I hope we get a chance again, and we can stay in touch if you want to. And anytime it's important to get the next step of the message out, hopefully we can help you do that.
All right.
So, have a good night, Josiah.
All right, Richard. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.